Should the Anaheim Ducks let the kids play? And by that, I mean certain kids. I'll talk about that on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason J.D. Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade. I'm currently the public address announcer for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, and I've also contributed to Defend the Nest. Okay, we're just going to get right into it and keep this one really short because I'm still battling here. If you've missed the last few episodes, I've been just trying to be 100%. I am not even close. And I do have games next week, so this will be the shortest episode of all of them this week, so just apologies for that. But I do want to get into the big topic, at least for me, and this is a very big one. And this comes with a little bit of news. This was just reported, in fact, yesterday. I think most people missed this because I didn't see it reported anywhere else, but it's been reported from a couple of sources. I'm reading this from La Nouvelle Union. Tristan Luneau, he is training again. Yeah, so that's a bit of news, Ducks fans. Tristan Luneau has finally started training again. So this is good news, Ducks fans. But is it good news? So he hasn't played since he flew off to Sweden. He was supposed to be playing in the Under-20 World Junior Championships out in Sweden for Team Canada. And then it was later found out that he had suffered a knee infection. So it wasn't really an injury, but it was a knee infection. That's what kept him off the roster for the World Juniors, where Canada eventually lost in the quarterfinals, mind you. I mean, Team Canada really missed Tristan Luneau in that tournament. He was supposed to be one of the cornerstones of that team. And for him to have a knee infection, that was just awful for him. So at the time, I think the Ducks did make the right move by allowing him to play in World Juniors because he wanted to play for his country so badly. And that was the right move at the time. But for him to get the knee infection right when he was there, that was just awful timing. Also, I should point out that he has to report to training camp for juniors no later than March 8th if he wants to finish in the Quebec League. So far this season, Tristan Luneau has played 7 games for the Ducks, and in those 7 games, he's gotten 1 goal and 2 assists for a total of 3 points. Not too bad. That's in 7 games. He also had 2 apples in a conditioning stint with the San Diego Gulls this season. Now that he's training again, now that he's been allowed to train in the gym again, the question is, okay, so he's training, but what does that mean for a timetable for his return to the ice? There is still no timetable for his return to the ice, but him training again is good news. But now this begs another question. What do the Ducks do? Well, actually, this kind of is a twofold thing. If he does report to the Gatineau team before March 8th, then he is still eligible to play in the QMJHL, I got that, this season for the Gatineau Olympique. That is only about 6 weeks away. So he's got a little less than 6 weeks to report to Gatineau if he's going to finish. Or maybe the Ducks could bring him back to Anaheim. But the other question, is he going to get a lot of playing time in Anaheim? I'm not so sure about that, to be honest, because the Anaheim Ducks like to bring up their players rather slowly. We saw that with Olen Zellweger for the last few seasons. And I will talk about Olen Zellweger more in a little bit. But as far as Luneau is concerned, he's played 7 games. That That's important to note. And also important to note that he played 7 games before the Ducks sent him off to play in World Juniors. So maybe this was a bit calculated, because even at the time that Luneau was sent to Sweden, the question among some writers was, what do the Ducks do with him when he returns from World Juniors? If he has a stellar tournament, do they bring him back to the Ducks and burn off that first year of his ELC, which he just signed this past summer? Yes, let me remind you that Tristan Luneau did sign an entry-level contract less than a year ago. And he still has a couple of games to play with if he wants to burn off that first year of his entry-level contract. Can't play more than 9 games, so still a couple of games to play with. But it is a challenge now for the Ducks because they just traded Jamie Drysdale. They just brought Olen Zellweger in, and Zellweger's looked pretty good. But as far as Luneau is concerned, if he returns to the Ducks, is he going to get the playing time that he needs? Will he be able to get ramped up to play those big minutes? Keep in mind, this knee infection has kept him out for over a month now, and he's barely started training in the gym. He hasn't even gotten back out on the ice with the team yet, and it's been a while. With the Ducks being where they are in the standings, and with only 34 games left in the season, look, the Ducks are not going to make any noise this season. So would it be prudent for the Ducks to have him return this season? I'll give a take on this. I don't think the Ducks should bring Tristan Luneau back this season. It's been a little bit too long now. I think he should report back to Gatineau for a multitude of reasons. He will get the playing time that he needs in Gatineau. He won't have to be under any kind of games control, any type of minutes control. We've seen how the Ducks have brought up rookies. Not just Olen Zellweger. How about Trevor Zegras in the past, or even this season, Leo Carlsson? Don't forget that the Ducks were limiting the amount of games that Leo Carlsson was playing to begin with. So this kind of fits the mold of what the Ducks are doing. But given the type of, given that it's a knee infection, given the length of time he's been out, it would be best for him to just return to the Gatineau Olympic and play out his final season in the Quebec League. Now, some might say, well, he's already accomplished pretty much everything he can in the Quebec League. He's already been the Quebec League Defensive Rookie of the Year. He was the Rookie of the Year and Defensive Rookie of the Year. And he was also the Defenseman of the Year last year in the Quebec League. He won the Bouchard Trophy back in 2023. He led all defenders in assists and points in the Quebec League last season. So it feels like he has already accomplished everything that he needs to. So I get that he's already going to be a man amongst boys. But the Ducks did that with Olen Zellweger last year. Instead of bringing him up, he played a dominant season in the Western Hockey League last season. And Olen Zellweger has been brought up slowly. And Tristan Luneau, I think, should be returned slowly because he has been out for a while. And I get the argument that he's too good for the Quebec League. He's too good to play in juniors. I completely get that. We saw that in his limited time with the Ducks. He belongs in the NHL. He absolutely does. But for the long term, and we have to think long term here. We cannot think in terms of this season because this season, unfortunately, is kind of a loss for the Anaheim Ducks. It just is. So really think about what would be best for him long term. And I think long term, you send him back to Quebec for a couple of months. At this point, it might only be a couple of months. It might only be a month and a half. So we'll see what the Ducks do. But, for me personally, send him back to juniors. Let him have some good quality hockey time for a month and a half. And that's assuming that he gets back to training camp before that deadline. If he doesn't, he might just sit out the rest of the season, might play a couple of games in Anaheim, and that's it. All right, we're going to head into the first intermission. We are well over time, so we'll quickly get to the first intermission. Stay locked in. Now a brief word from Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. We're talking very fast. Because 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches faster compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So listen up. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about it on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. We're also brought to you by FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NFL. And the NFL playoffs are really heating up this weekend. It is the conference championships, and there's no better time to get in on the action with FanDuel than right now. America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, and the app is super easy to use. You can make same-game parlays. You can go to the Parlay Hub. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Check out futures, Super Bowl futures, by the way, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a touchdown. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please, folks, gamble responsibly. Let's transition over from talking about Tristan Luneau to talking about Olen Zellweger. So we're going on the other side of this. Yes, I did say that Tristan Luneau should stay in juniors for this year. And I'm transitioning over to Olen Zellweger because Olen Zellweger over the past couple of seasons only played one playoff game in the American Hockey League with the San Diego Gulls a couple seasons ago, and I still can't believe that he didn't play that game too. I'm getting over it, folks. I really am, I promise. Yeah, I'm sort of over it. Olen Zellweger last season was just a joy to watch in the Western Hockey League. And everybody that saw him play knew that he was way too good for the WHL. Some would even argue that he was too good for the WHL the previous season and should have gone up with the Ducks last year. But the Ducks played it safe. They gave him that extra year in juniors, and he just dominated. I mean, completely turned that league upside down. He was that good. He won pretty much every award that you possibly can. This season, Olen Zellweger has played 2 games with the Anaheim Ducks, and he's looked good. Well, he looked really good in his first game. Second game, he actually still looked pretty good. So he's off to a pretty solid start in the NHL. He still has a few games to play around with, and the Ducks have a few games to play around with as far as Olen Zellweger. Do they burn a year off of his ELC this season? Yeah, I get the argument that Olen Zellweger is too good for the American Hockey League. I mean, he is an all-star this season, by the way. Let me remind you, Olen Zellweger is an all-star for the American Hockey League. The Ducks could very well send him back to the Gulls to play in that all-star game because there would be no use in having him stick around in Anaheim when there's no games going on. I mean, it's an all-star break. The Ducks aren't playing. They could send him back to San Diego for those last couple of games before the all-star break, and then he'll go up to San Jose, play that all-star game, and maybe just keep him in San Diego for the rest of the season. As much as I love Olen Zellweger, and as much as I say let the kids play, and I say this all the time on this podcast, those of you everydayers, those of you that listen in every day, you know I frequently say let the kids play. The Ducks aren't making the playoffs this year, okay? Let me make that perfectly clear once again. There's 34 games left. There's already an elimination number under 50 for the Anaheim Ducks. Is that 49? Well, technically it's 47 because two of those teams that are right there in the mix play each other, and those 2 points have to go somewhere. So technically the elimination number for the Ducks is at 47. With 34 games left, the Ducks need to win almost every game, at least 70% of their games, in order to have any kind of shot at the playoffs of this season. In other words, it isn't happening. It's just not. So consider this a lost season for the Anaheim Ducks, and maybe it would be better for Olen Zellweger's development to send him back down to San Diego, let him learn a little bit more, and let him polish his game even more in the American League with a team that, even though they're not in the playoff hunt, at least the Gulls are closer to a playoff spot than the Ducks are right now. And the Gulls are kind of on a little bit of a roll. I mean, the Gulls get to play Central Division teams, so San Diego should do fine against those teams, right? So at least they will be somewhat closer to a playoff spot. And it might be better for his development because Zellweger will get those top minutes with the Gulls, and it won't burn a year of ELC off his contract. So I know in a way I'm kind of contradicting what I've said in the past where I say let the kids play. But because of where the Ducks are in the standings, because of how this season, this disappointing season has turned out for Anaheim, I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking about next season. Play Zellweger and Luneau for a full season next year. Give them a little bit more time to develop, a little bit more time to get seasoned, and I think it will be better in the long term for both Zell and for Luneau. I hate saying that. I really do hate saying that because I love watching both those guys play in the NHL. I was excited to see Olen Zellweger get his first point. That was exciting for me. Despite my voice being really crappy when it happened, I was still happy. Did I maybe let out a shriek when I realized he got his first point? Yeah, a little bit. It was a high-pitched shriek because I had almost no voice, but it was exciting to see. But give Zells a chance to develop even further. All right, we're going to head into the second intermission and wrap this up really quickly. Stay locked in. Now a word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. Patience underlined. Patience doubly underlined. What brings home the winning trophy, aside from patience, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. We're going to wrap this one up quickly before I completely lose my voice. So I'm going to say let the kids play in juniors or San Diego. But let's talk about Leo Carlsson for a hot second, because the Ducks are finally letting Leo Carlsson play without any restrictions. It's about dang time. We also have another rookie that we've got to watch coming back when he is able to come back, and that is Pavel Mintyukov, who is still out, by the way. He is expected to come back sometime next month. I would anticipate he doesn't come back until late February, because it was a separated shoulder and the timetable was about 6 to 8 weeks. So we've still got a while for Minty to come back. Same thing with Trevor Zegras. You know, he's out 6 to 8 weeks. He might not come back until late February as well. So those two kids right there, they're probably going to be brought back slowly, because by the time both those guys come back, it could be almost a lost season at that point. So maybe just bring them back really slowly. If they go on LTIR, then that would give both of them a chance to, well, maybe not Zegras, but it would give Mintyukov a chance to have conditioning with the San Diego Gulls this season. And I think that would be best for his development, is when Mintyukov comes back, if he is put on LTIR, then bring him up slowly and give him that time with the San Diego Gulls. And I'm actually checking really quickly to see if either of them are on LTIR right now. And it turns out neither player is on LTIR. But what long-term injured reserve does, let me repeat this. When a player goes on LTIR, that means that they are given the opportunity to have a conditioning stint in the American Hockey League. Now, maybe this doesn't apply to Mintyukov, because even though he is on injured reserve, he can go down without having to go through waivers. So actually, my mistake, because Mintyukov is waivers exempt, he can go down to San Diego anyway. So I anticipate that happening before he comes back to Anaheim, where he has a few games with the Gulls. So actually, I take it back. There is no need for Mintyukov to go on LTIR. And if that's the case, then there's no reason for Z to go to LTIR, because the Ducks have all the cap space anyway. So just bring those two young guys back slowly. Make sure they are both completely 100%, and just let them finish off the season any way they can. So yeah, let the kids play, but also let the kids recover. Please let them recover, because I want to see all of those guys that I've mentioned today. I want to see all of them tear up the NHL next season. When it's a full season, hopefully without any injuries, and they can tear it up. I'm going to be optimistic for everybody here, okay? I'm going to end the week on a positive note. If all of those guys, Luneau, Mintyukov, Z, and Carlsson, and Zells, if all of those guys can play at least 70 games next season, then I think the Ducks could make a run at a playoff spot next season. Not 3 years from now, not 2 years from now, next season. I think they could be ready. I didn't say they'll make the playoffs. I said they can make a run at it. So there's your positivity. Have patience for next season. All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't forget, this podcast is free and available across all platforms. Oh boy, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, ad-free on Amazon. Also check out the YouTube channel, the Locked On Sports YouTube. I'm on Twitter at StimpyJD. Show's Twitter's at LO_Ducks. You could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. And by the way, Thank you for a couple of you that have sent notes. I've been sick the last few days. So thanks to the couple of you that have sent some nice notes. I really appreciate it. And also apologies on the video side. It's been really tough because I've been just battling sickness all week. I'm going to take it easy on Sunday and just rest up and try to be ready to go next week. Once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason JD Hernandez saying have a great weekend, folks. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together.